It is a kind of a crazy story. I started out actually as a lawyer. I practiced law for about a year and a half here in California, and just realized it wasn't for me. And so I moved on. Actually, became a real estate broker, which was easy to do as a lawyer. You could just take a test, and I could become a broker. That really wasn't for me either. And so I was out to dinner with a friend from real estate. Her husband was a contractor, and I'm like, hey, I don't know what I'm doing with my life. Can I come bang some nails with you? He's like, yeah, we're starting a project next week down in Menlo Park. Come on over. And so I did. So I showed up, in my BMW as a lawyer, and I started demoing drywall, just ripping it off. That was what we did. It was demo. I was getting $10 an hour cash and loved it. Loved the physicality of it. I loved the instant gratification of you could see what you did at the end of the day, right? It was what I did. And slowly but surely, or actually probably pretty quickly, I just read every book I could and magazine and learned hands-on. My boss was a very good craftsman, and so he taught me. So I learned how to do plumbing and electrical and everything. Did that for 3.5 years and took my license test and started Supple Homes in 2005. Here we are 20 years later.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Builder's Bible. I'm joined by Sean Supple with Supple Homes, and he is a friend of mine through a program called Business on Purpose. And Sean has a really cool and unique niche and clientele in Northern California, and I'm excited to kind of just understand a little bit more about what he does and some of the cool homes that he's built for his clients. Sean, tell us a little bit about Supple Homes, how you started, and where you guys are at today.
Thanks so much for having me, Andrew. Could be a long story. I'll try to keep it brief. It is a kind of a crazy story. I started out actually as a lawyer I graduated back in '98, and I practiced law for about a year and a half here in California, and just realized it wasn't for me. And so I moved on. Actually, became a real estate broker. Which was easy to do as a lawyer. You could just take a test and I could become a broker. That really wasn't for me either. And so I was out to dinner with a friend from real estate. Her husband was a contractor. And I'm like, hey, I don't know what I'm doing with my life. Can I come bang some nails with you? He's like, yeah, we're starting a project next week down in Menlo Park. Come on over. And so I did. So I showed up, in my BMW as a lawyer, and I started demoing drywall. Just ripping it off. That was what we did. It was demo. I was getting $10 an hour cash and loved it. Loved the physicality of it. I loved the instant gratification of you could see what you did at the end of the day, right? It was what I did. And slowly but surely, or actually probably pretty quickly, I just read every book I could and magazine and learned hands-on. My boss was a very good craftsman, and so he taught me. So I learned how to do plumbing and electrical and everything. Did that for 3.5 years and took my license test and started Supple Homes in 2005. Here we are 20 years later. Just started me, myself, and I doing bathroom remodels, then kitchens, and slowly but surely we got to big remodels and new houses. And now we've just finished a 14,000 square foot house and 9,000. So now we're doing big custom homes mostly.
That's amazing. So yeah, I mean, that's a totally different stratosphere, I think, than a lot of the home builders we've had on the show. So how do people find you? Is it all referral, or where do most of your kind of new business come from?
Yeah, ideally, our referrals are the best kind of clients, right? And so mostly from previous clients, their friends or neighbors, or previous architects or designers. That's the vast majority. Some of the stuff we'll get from, neighbors, job site signs, or some other stuff like that. We have some, reviews on Google or on House, but it's mostly word of mouth.
All right, so a 9,000 and 14,000 square foot home. What is like a typical, I don't know if there is typical for you, but typical like price point for these custom homes that you're building?
Well, the best is probably maybe to give you like a square foot, a dollar per square foot price. They're about $900 to $1,000 a square foot.
Okay.
And we're right in the heart of Silicon Valley, right? So clients are high-tech executives and venture capitalists, are 90% of our clientele.
Okay. Well, when you said there's kind of been almost like you were doing remodels, are you still doing any remodel work with your current, business?
We do. We won't do a bathroom or a kitchen alone, but we do. Currently, we have an 8,000 square foot remodel. So we do large remodels most of the
What's the breakdown in terms of your business between custom homes, remodels, and anything else?
time. 85% is new custom homes. We
Okay.
usually maybe have one remodel going on out of, we do typically do 5 or 6 projects at a time. Maybe one will
Okay.
be a big remodel. We've done very little commercial. We did some work on a private school in town here, but besides that, it's mostly just all residential.
What are some projects either that you're excited about or really proud of, either, past, present, or future?
Yeah, this 14,000 square foot we did was the largest we had ever done. It had a 5,000 square foot basement, which was crazy. Twice as big as my house, the basement, and it had, with a 20-person movie theater. I mean, it looks like you're at the movies with the chairs and the surround. It was crazy. So that was pretty cool. Um, we just
Do
very
you get
much.
to, Sean, do you get to enjoy something like that at all? Like, do you get to sit in a movie theater ever, or you just kind of have to hand the keys off?
No, yeah, we get to test drive some of the stuff, right? Test it
Yeah.
out, but and sometimes clients will have us over. We always joke at the end, when's the party? When do we get to come back and enjoy all the stuff? We actually have someone moving in a house today. It's just a little 5,500 square foot house, but they're actually moving in today. So yeah.
That's awesome. Well, what are some of the biggest challenges you feel like your company is facing now? What are some things that you're trying to overcome?
We are, you know, as soon as it sounds, client decision making, right? These are custom homes, and we typically don't have the decisions haven't been made, but when we start, i.e., they haven't selected plumbing fixtures or tile or cabinets, all these things. So that's an ongoing process. They all have designers, but getting the decisions made in a timely fashion to stay on schedule. We're very process oriented, and so we'll say, hey, this is going to take 2 years to build, and it can, but the decisions need to be made in a timely fashion. And so that's probably getting decisions made by the stakeholders is probably the biggest thing.
When someone comes to you and they're potentially looking at multiple builders, what do you typically say? Like, what sets you guys apart in your process or your product?
Well, I think that we are very process oriented. As you mentioned, we met through BOP, Business on Purpose, and that's sort of their mantra, right? And so we started with them about 8 years ago, and I look at it, sort of became a real company. We were just a builder before. Now we've got, we have team meetings, and we have core values and a mission statement and all sorts of things. And so we're very process system oriented. The key to me is keeping a schedule. And so the more things we can do to help replicate the process. My goal is to have it doesn't. I have 4 project managers, and I want the process to be. I want the experience for the client to be the same, no matter which process, no matter which project manager they get. Right? Everyone's gonna has their own personality twist, but overall it should be the same experience. So like going to McDonald's, you know what you're gonna get, right? Every time you go to a place, it's repeatable.
Yeah.
That's kind of the goal.
Tell us about a little bit of some of the technology you're using, whether, some of the different like CRM, project management tools you guys have.
Yeah, the big one is Builder Trend. That's kind of the behemoth out there, I think, in the construction, residential construction. There's bigger ones in commercial, but we've been with them for about 7 years. We just had them in for a 2-day in-person visit to help train our team more, because there's so many nuances. There's so many little things. These types of softwares. Anything. You could say it's Microsoft Word or Excel or whatever, right? You only use 10% of the features, right, that we need, but they are all so powerful. And so I wanted to try to utilize more of the stuff. So we had them in for a 2-day back in January. So we're using almost all of it. And it does things like what's called daily logs. So every day that we're putting in pictures, videos, writing a blurb about what happened on the site. That actually is our client's favorite aspect. They can be sitting at home. They get an app on their phone or a website portal, and they can sit on the couch and see what happened at the house that day. They don't have to come over because they're, and so they love that. Really universally, something that they love.
Keep going. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say some of those things. No, is, and so to help with the schedule, we have a full schedule in there, Gantt charted out and all that kind of stuff. But one of the favorite features I think is to-dos that they have. They call them to-dos. It is kind of like a to-do, and we have like 250 of them templated in, so that when we know when rough plumbing is going to happen in December, we have an alert that pops up. Hey, we need rough plumbing fixtures selected by October 1st, and so that helps keep everything on track as well. And so, one of the things is I've been trying to implement and trying to do is we all make mistakes, right? We all have mistakes, whether we make them or other people are making them, the designers or subcontractors. But a lot of the mistakes are avoidable if you had a system in place. And so my goal really the last 6 months push has been, what can we do to minimize avoidable mistakes? What is it that we can do, right? So how do we minimize them? And so it could be something as simple as, hey, let's have a to-do trigger so that we don't forget next time, right? So that's kind of my goal right now, is minimizing avoidable mistakes.
I'm a little bit curious because one thing that I talk to home builders about is skilled labor. And I wouldn't even know, like, what is it like to find subs or contractors in Silicon Valley? Is it challenging? Is it easy? Is it somewhere in between?
I only know this market really, so I don't know the ins and outs of other ones. It's relatively easy. Depends on the timing. Certainly after COVID or towards the end of COVID, things were crazy, right? Whenever the housing market was nuts, you couldn't really find anybody. That's settled down. This is where we are right in the heart of Silicon Valley. Is, for example, the town of Atherton, where I think we have 3 projects right now. It's the most expensive zip code in America, right? I'm in Menlo Park, is where my office is, where I'm sitting now. It's up there as well. It's where Facebook is headquartered, right? So these are all these spots that where the high value clients and homes are. So contractors will travel from far to get here. So there's a ton of competition and everyone trying to undercut. If people want to work on price. So we do have to deal with pricing quite a bit that will lose out potentially to some newcomers coming in. And so that's the key, is to vet what are we going to get for that price and versus performance. And so we've done a lot of time. We basically have our core subcontractors. Everything we do is basically subcontractor work. We have a carpenter and a laborer, but mostly subcontractor, because it's more efficient for the size homes that we build. But we've kind of found our team over the years after vetting them out from the price, performance, communication, reliability, right? And you find those people, and then they become kind of your partners, and that's who you work with.
We've gone completely off script at this one, if you haven't been able to tell. But so let's say I walk in. Let's say I'm a high-powered executive at Facebook or one of these companies in the Valley. I want to build a custom home. Walk me through the process. Like, what do we sign a contract, and then what happens next?
Yeah, well, 9 times out of 10, they have hired an architect first. And so they're developing the plans with the architect. It's taken a year and a half or so that they've been working with them. And then 9 times out of 10, the architect will refer us or some other way. And so they come to me typically with plans already all made up. We take a couple weeks, about 3 weeks or so, to actually send it out to all our contractors, get back pricing, put it all together, give them a price, set up, we have in-person meetings and set that all up. Ideally, we're probably starting a project within 3 to 4 months, because that's how far along they are. And one of the big decisions, they are mostly baking the decision on availability. Pricing obviously is very important, but availability, I couldn't say, hey, I can't start for a year, because they've already been in this process for a year and a half. They want to get started. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Let's talk about AI for a second. How are you using it, or where do you feel like you should be using it?
We are dabbling in it, trying to get better all the time. We've started setting up, just using Gemini, because we're a workspace company, so we have all of that. We're using ChatGPT. We have paid accounts, which I've told is very important to have a paid account, not a free account, for the security and things like that. We just started using a device called Plod, which is an in-person recording. So we're also recording the Zoom meetings and notes and stuff like that, and all the video meetings. But now we're recording in-person meetings with this recorder device, and just basically, instead of taking notes, right, to have it so the PM can be more present in the meeting. But we're also doing it. I think the biggest thing with it is kind of as a walk around. My project manager's walking around the site, by himself, sort of talking to himself and being like, okay, in the living room here, the plumber needs to move that valve. The electrician, there's a plug over here in the living room, and just creating that to-do list. We're just starting to do that, and I think that's going to be a game changer.
Sean, what's one thing we haven't talked about today that gets you fired up or excited?
I am excited about the potential automations actually with the AI. As I go back to my statement of wanting to minimize avoidable mistakes, how much can AI help us do that? So that's what I'm sort of most excited about, and therefore freeing up the team to be able to do more tasks that are a better use of their time, but to automate the basic data tasks. So that actually is my most exciting thing right now that we're focused on.
How big is your team, by the way? Do you have how many project managers and all that stuff?
We have 4 project managers, a carpenter, laborer, office person, and we've just hired a remote estimator. Super excited about, because that's been on my plate, and a remote admin. So I think that makes 10 of us, I think, at the moment.
That's awesome. Well,
Yeah.
Sean, if people want to learn more about who you are and what you do, where can they go?
Well, our website is supplehomesinc.com, which has just been revamped. So come check it out. It's I look forward to future podcasts with you, Andrew. This was
all right,
fun.
Thank you. Yeah, had a good time. Thanks for joining us. Don't go anywhere. I don't want you to leave, but thanks for joining us on the pod.
Sounds good.